Hi, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Leslie Doyle. I'm the Director of Early Childhood Academics and Improvement, and I, with the help of my 3 field support consultants, will be leading the work of 2019-2020 Early Childhood Site Improvement Planning. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. The purpose of this webinar is to share the department's strategy for 2019-2020 site improvement planning and discuss our expectations of our R&Rs and our mental health consultants. So we're going to have an overview of what we did last year with 2018-2019 site improvement planning. We are going to talk about the current sites that are identified to participate in this year's site improvement planning process. We will discuss the 2019-2020 site improvement planning protocol, and then there'll be time to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. So let's talk a little bit about what happened last year. So we all know that early childhood leaders and teachers need scaffolded support to understand how they can achieve the vision to improve classroom quality in their sites and centers. So we need teachers that respond to children's emotions with sensitivity and warmth, teachers that are organized and that can manage child's attention, time, and behavior. We need teachers that promote learning through engaging high-quality interactions. And we need teachers in classrooms that support child development with high-quality instructional tools, such as curriculum, standards, and assessment. What we realized through site improvement planning was that the sites that were scoring below 3.75, our low-performing sites, weren't aware of the department's priorities, and they also weren't aware of all of the supports that we had to offer them. So our field support team did a good job of helping them to put together those pieces, and you guys, our R&Rs, did a great job as well of helping to coach them through this process. So a little bit of changes in 2018-2019. We improved our site improvement planning process by requiring all sites that scored below 3.75 to participate. We made it a more formalized process. We monitored the progress of these sites, and we had a lot more sites that were participating in site improvement planning process since we did open it up to a larger number by looking at below 3.75. The previous year, we were only looking at sites that scored in that unsatisfactory range. So a little bit about what we did last year. We let sites know early on, the beginning of the school year, that they would be required to participate in the site improvement planning process. They received a letter letting them know this. They were contacted by the field support consultant that they had been assigned. They worked with the department staff and coaches. They received prioritized resources such as CCR&Rs, curriculum, and mental health. They had monthly communication with our field support team, and they created improvement plans. And throughout the year, as progress was monitored and as scores were received, our field support team worked with these directors to change their improvement plans to help mirror what they were seeing and what the needs were becoming in each site. Some of the prioritized support that was offered to them was monthly communication with their field support consultant, child care resource and referral coaching and technical assistance and training, options of participating in the mental health consultation program, and they were provided information into the child care curriculum initiative, and some were even offered child care curriculum from their R&R agency. So we know that this process worked because last year we had 95% of the sites that participated in site improvement planning showed improvement, with 46% growing 1 point or higher. And we had someone who's on our data team look at the significance to see if this was truly significant improvement, and she did a little case study. So what we looked at was sites that scored below 3.75 that were required to participate in site improvement planning. That's the sites that you see that are shaded in blue. And then we compared their scores and their results to sites that were just scoring above, so sites that scored in the 3.75 to 4.0 range. So they were still low-performing sites. They were still in that approaching proficient range, but they didn't receive the intense, formalized support that our site improvement planning sites did. And you can see their beginning of the year goal, their end of the year scores from 2017, 2018, then their preliminary scores from last year. So the site improvement sites, even though they began at a much lower average than the sites that were above them, the 3.75 to 4.0 sites, they actually scored above in 2018, 2019. So you can see the improvement of the sites that participated in site improvement planning was 0.82, and the improvement of the sites that were scoring between 3.75 to 4.0, who didn't receive that specialized support, they improved, but they only improved by 0.42. Okay, so let's look a little bit closer about what sites we have outlined to participate in this year's site improvement planning process. So first, we're going to look at the sites that are mandated to participate. These are the sites that scored below 3.75. So preliminary data indicates that there are 24 sites that received scores below 3.75 in the 2018-2019 school year. This is a large improvement from the 66 sites that scored in this range the previous year. Of these 24 sites, only one site scored unsatisfactory, while 24 sites scored a low approaching proficient, so they scored below 3.75. 3 of those sites, 3 of the 24 that were identified as low approaching proficient, participated in site improvement planning last year. Of the low performing sites, we have 20 childcare, 3 school-based sites, and 1 early Head Start and Head Start. So this represents nearly a 64% decrease in the number of sites that scored below 3.75 compared to last year's data. But remember, this is only preliminary data. We're still constantly scrubbing the data, looking for inconsistencies, and we all know it won't officially be released until November when performance profiles roll out. Okay, so let's compare the class domains. So on this graph, I've got 3 different groups that we're looking at. I've got all sites in Louisiana. I've got the 24 mandated sites that will be required to participate in 2019-2020 site improvement planning. And then the green column shows the sites that participated last year in 2018-2019 site improvement planning process. So they were previously less than 3.75, but as you can see, their averages have increased. So sites that will be required to participate in 2019-2020 site improvement planning scored much lower for all class domains, especially instructional support and engaged support for learning. So we're focusing on that purple column. On average, these low-performing sites scored lower on all pre-K dimensions compared to that of sites that participated in site improvement planning last year. So I've got the same 3 groups, all sites, state average, the 24 sites that will be mandated to participate, and then those 60 sites that graduated or that completed site improvement planning last year. Looking at the toddler dimensions, particularly noticeable is that low-performing sites scored 1.73 points lower in regard for child perspectives compared to the state average and 1.27 points lower compared to the sites that received site improvement planning last year, our 2018-2019 site improvement planning sites. And I will be providing a recording of this webinar as well as the slides if you wanted to look a little bit deeper at some of the graphs that are being presented. So we do have 24 sites that will be mandated to participate in site improvement planning. But as you can see, the success of this process has made it us at the department want to open it up to additional sites. So we're going to be offering additional sites to participate in this 2019-2020 site improvement planning process. These sites will not be mandated to participate, but it will be highly recommended that they do participate. And we're going to be relying on kind of our field support consultants reaching out to them, encouraging them, talking about the success of the program, as well as our R&Rs, the coaches that might be involved, reaching out, because we really do want them to buy into this process. Even though they're not mandated to do it, we know that these effects are statistically significant, and we want them to grow. So these are a little bit of the additional sites that we are targeting. In addition to overall low performance, the department team has identified additional sites to target with this successful intervention. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 24 sites that scored below 3.75. Then we also looked at sites that scored unsatisfactory using third-party scores only. That added 3 additional sites. We looked at sites that had unsatisfactory local scores only. That didn't add any additional. We looked at sites that had pre-K scores that were below 3.75, to where these pre-K scores, the high toddler scores, may be masking concerns in the pre-K. That added 16 additional sites. We looked at toddler scores that were below 3.75, which added 14 additional sites. And then sites that participated in site improvement planning last year. We talked to our field support consultants, and they reviewed all of the sites that they worked with and kind of broke them into 2 separate categories. They looked at sites that we thought showed enough growth, and they felt confident that they did not need to participate in this formalized process for another year. So we talked with you during calls a couple of weeks ago how we were going to release these sites into the support of our R&Rs and our lead agencies. Then they looked at the remaining sites and either grouped them into sites needing full support, so participating in the site improvement planning process again fully, or sites that needed just additional modified support, maybe not quite as many check-ins. So we kind of referred to this as site improvement planning, but with a lighter touch. So not as much hand-holding, but still there to offer them the support. These site improvement planning sites that are repeating the process, they either were recommended by our field support team, or they asked for the opportunity. We had several sites that recognized the benefits of this process, saw the growth that they made and the growth that their teachers made, and wanted to continue to see that growth and continue to raise their scores. So they asked if they could participate again. So we welcomed that. So we have those sites as well. Total, we have 78 sites, 3 schools, 1 Head Start, and 74 childcare. And once again, this is preliminary data, and I'm updating it constantly, as I've been noting from responses from your emails or sites themselves. I know that some sites that are listed within these lists may have closed, or may be planning to close, or may have changed to a type 2 center. So as these things happen, you will be notified, as well as our, we will make updates on our end. So here's where these sites are. As far as the number of sites that are required, there are 7 required in Agenda for Children's region, 3 in Children's Coalition, 0 in Northwestern, 0 in On Track by 5, 1 in Point P, 9 in VOA Region 2 and 3, and 1 in VOA Region 5, 6, and 7. And then you can see through the other columns how many additional ones have been added with the additional targets. When I add on the target of unsatisfactory third party, or age specific less than 3.75, or those sites that are either completing a full or a modified repeat of site improvement planning. So that would give a total of 30 for Agenda for Children, 13 for Children's Coalition, 3 for Northwestern, 2 for On Track by 5, 2 for Point P, 17 for VOA Regions 2 and 3, and 7 for VOA Regions 5, 6, and 7. Once, I kind of want to repeat again, they are not mandated to do this. So we will be reaching out after our field support team has made contact with these sites, letting you know which sites have signed the assurances, which sites are willing and ready and welcoming the opportunity to participate in this process. So this is the preliminary number of sites that we are offering it up to, but it might not be the total caseload that you're looking at. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sites that will be repeating site improvement planning. So I know I mentioned earlier that 95% of our sites that participated in site improvement planning showed growth, with 46% growing by 1 point or higher. So we have all this growth, but 37 of those sites, 64%, are still scoring in that approaching proficient range based on the 2018-2019 preliminary data. So we looked at 58 of these sites. We have 0 that are unsatisfactory. We have 3, as we mentioned earlier, that will be required to participate in site improvement planning again. We have 34 that are still in that approaching proficient range. We have 20 sites that graduated and moved up to proficient. And we even have 1 site that moved as high proficient. And if you look a little bit at the bottom, you can see about where we divided it up by the northern Louisiana, southeastern Louisiana, and southwestern Louisiana. So kind of the sites that were under Tella's area in the north, Bridget's area in the southeast, and Shallon in the southwest, showing the number of sites, the improvement that those site averages made, and the number that will either continue to participate in full site improvement planning or a modified site improvement planning. Okay, so let's talk about the 2019-2020 Site Improvement Planning Protocol. So we did make a few key changes this year. Sites that receive a rating below 3.75 will be required, as last year, to participate in a formal improvement planning process led by the department. In 2019-2020, additional sites are being recommended to participate. Here are some key features of the 2019-2020 expanded site improvement planning process. So we have the required participation of those sites that scored below 3.75, that's stated in policy. We have the 2018-2019 site improvement sites, so the sites that participated last year in site improvement planning and either requested or it's been recommended by the field support consultant that they participate in either a full or a modified version of site improvement planning. Then we looked at additional groups. We looked at groups that either received unsatisfactory third-party or local scores, and we looked at sites that had age range specific scores below 3.75. Another change is we're going to increase our monitoring for improvement. So we're going to expand the strategies for formal communication and tracking of interventions to better understand what is effective in supporting improvement. I think a lot of that's going to help out is the new reporting system that you guys, the R&Rs, are using that Fairshea has designed. So that's going to really help us to be able to track the coaching, the TA, the visits that your coaches are providing to these sites. So here's just a little bit of some of the steps that we're going to go on for each month. So it's August right now. We're wrapping up August. We're still in the process of sending out letters, letting sites know that they will either be mandated or recommended to participate in early childhood site improvement planning. We've sent you guys, our R&Rs, our lead agencies, and mental health consultants, all a list of all of the sites in their area that will be participating in site improvement planning. Our field support team, as soon as all of the sites receive their letters, they will be making contact with centers within their regions and scheduling visits. In September, at the FSC's first visit, they will be completing the site self-assessment with each director. So the site self-assessment pretty much assesses where each director feels kind of the preparedness of the center. So we're focusing on things like class, or do your teachers know about class, or have they received any training about class? Then we'll ask questions about curriculum. Does your site have a Tier 1 curriculum? Does it have one for each classroom? Have your teachers received training on curriculum? And then another set of questions about teacher certification or PD. Do your lead teachers have their early childhood ancillary certificate? So just to kind of get a better idea about the strengths and the weaknesses within each site. Also at this time, our FSCs are going to figure out their monthly check-in schedule. You guys, our R&Rs, are going to assign a coach to work in each site. Sites that are in need are going to be offered support from the mental health consultation program. And lead agencies are also going to make contact with these sites and provide a schedule for all of their network meetings. That's going to be a strong push this year to make sure that our lead agencies, that our sites participate in these meetings so they can stay abreast of all of the things and all of the initiatives that we're focusing on. In October, our FSCs are going to analyze those site improvement plans with the directors, and they're going to identify goals and action steps based on those things, based on class, curriculum, and professional development or teacher preparation. They're going to outline those 3 goals. Okay. In November, the department's going to schedule meetings with our R&Rs for fall site improvement planning review. And our R&Rs are going to be able to speak explicitly on their role and actions for supporting each site. In December and January, our field support team is going to review any fall data that was collected. We're going to flag any concerns and update the site improvement plan as needed. Sites that are at risk of losing academic approval or not demonstrating improvement receive notices from the department. This is mainly for sites that have scored unsatisfactory, because we know that sites that score unsatisfactory twice within a 3-year period are at risk for losing academic approval. So we definitely don't want that to happen. So we will be sending in early notice to any sites that it looks like that may be a concern for. In February and March, our FSCs are going to conduct a director survey just to gain insight into the challenges of managing a low-performing center. And the department will also be scheduling the spring site improvement planning review. And once again, our R&R agencies are going to be able to speak explicitly on their role and actions for supporting each site. In April and May, our FSCs are going to kind of start wrapping up the process and conduct an end of the year check where they check the status of each site's site improvement plan goals and think about what next steps they have. And by this time, we may have a few preliminary goals a few preliminary scores that we can share with these sites. And remember, site improvement planning lasts until June. So at June, to wrap it up, the FSCs are going to re-administer the site self-assessment, the same one that they did at the beginning of the year. We're going to do it again at the end of the year. And we are going to analyze individual site growth. The FSCs are going to review spring data with the sites and provide them with support documents, such as calendars to help them to organize their things, their end of year check that outlines the remaining steps to complete those goals. Just additional information that can help them out the following year should their support not be there in a formalized way. And then 2019-2020 performance scores, preliminary performance scores, will be used to determine whether a site continues in the site improvement planning process for the next upcoming academic year. So here is a few additional considerations. So the R&R deliverable data that you enter into the system for Fairshea and Michelle will be analyzed monthly to monitor coaching and technical assistance provided to sites participated in site improvement planning. Additional conversations will be scheduled with each R&R if necessary. Right now, we've got 2 that are listed in the plan, but additional ones may be scheduled. The department will be notified by the CCR&R of all coaching changes made throughout the site improvement planning process. That way we can update any of our forms that we need to. And CCR&R coaches should remain in communication with the regional field support consultant of each of their assigned sites. So we really want you to communicate with your FSC. You know, y'all might be seeing things that the field support team may be unaware of. So kind of share what you see in each site, bounce these things back and forth. It's a good idea just to keep the communication between the FSC and the coach as open as possible. We've had a lot of questions about modified site improvement planning. We know that not all of these sites will be mandated to participate, and some of the sites will be offered a modified version. So we've tried to identify some of the specific protocol for these subgroups. So sites that are in site improvement planning for age-specific averages below 3.75, they will be participating in the same site improvement planning process, receiving the same tools and the same supports, the same protocol. The only difference is it might be the field support team, when developing the site improvement plan, will develop the goals, and the coaching may focus more specifically on that age-specific group. So if they have a toddler score that is 3.42 and a pre-K score that's 4.8, rather than look at the site as a whole, it might be more beneficial to focus the improvement planning and to focus the goals on that targeted subgroup. Also, they will be receiving a minimum of 1 age-specific coaching visit per week. Sites that participate in full site improvement planning as a repeat will receive increased individualized targeted improvement goals and coaching. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so site improvement planning repeat of full, they will receive increased individualized targeted improvement goals and coaching. So our field support team is going to look closely at their class scores, and they may target their coaching or target the goals maybe towards a specific domain and dimension. So, or maybe even a specific age group there. So it'll be more deliberate in their coaching and in their goals that they create. They will receive 1 to 2 coaching visits per week, depending on the size of the center. If it's a smaller center, 1 might be suffice. If it's a larger one, 2 coaching visits may be necessary. Site improvement planning sites that are receiving a modified site improvement planning will receive increased individualized targeted improvement goals and coaching, like I mentioned above. And as I said earlier, this is just site improvement planning with a lighter touch. So they may receive less coaching, less intensive coaching, and maybe less outright communication by their field support staff. They might not be receiving all of those face-to-face visits. They might be getting more phone calls. So it's just a lighter touch of improvement planning. And here are some opportunities for our lead agencies to support these centers. So our lead agencies should be able to identify the available training, coaching, or other PD opportunities across the parish. They should support the identification of high-quality sites within the parish as examples. So they may provide these low-performing sites with an exemplar site that maybe we could schedule visits to serve almost as a model for them. They should encourage attendance at early childhood network meetings and work with the field support team on debriefing class scores for low-performing sites. They will receive updates on the low-performing sites in their region routinely through the department. They should also be working to collaborate with the field support team. So each parish has a field support consultant who works with early learning sites in that area. Lead agencies and field support consultants should remain in communication regarding opportunities for all site types within the region. Field support consultants act as an additional connector between early learning sites and the community and can be a great resource for reaching sites. So if someone, an R&R or a lead agency is having trouble getting in touch with the director, the field support consultant, they really have done a great job about building these relationships with these sites. So use them as a resource. And lead agencies should inform the FSC of meetings and share critical information with their local consultant. And I think that is about all that we've got here. If there are any questions, feel free to type them into the chat feature or raise your hand and I can unmute your mic. Okay, I guess there are no questions right now. If you should think of any, feel free to reach out. You can email me at leslie.doyle@la.gov and I will get back in touch with you as soon as I can. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this webinar as well as the slides that have been presented will be emailed to you later today or tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.